Okay, so I have some news that will absolutely rock your world. A lot of people don't know this, but there's been some really big news coming out of the Arctic lately. And some of the new discoveries are pretty scary, and they're going to change all of our lives in ways that you probably can't imagine. But the good news is we're going to talk about them right now, so let's go. Now, what am I talking about? Well, first off, we've got to understand something very important. The Arctic region, which includes the Arctic Ocean and the countries surrounding it, is warming at twice the rate of the rest of the planet. And this is no small thing. In fact, it's happening so fast that it's causing major changes to the landscape and to the wildlife and to us humans too. Now, just because something happens in the Arctic doesn't mean it'll affect you directly, but the way that the weather and the climate works means that everything is connected and it'll definitely affect you in some way. And if you live in the US, then yeah, you're going to be affected a lot. I mean, we've already seen how extreme weather events like hurricanes and floods and wildfires and winter storms have been getting worse in recent years. And unfortunately, things are going to keep getting worse. I mean, just consider this. When you heat up a place like the Arctic, which has a ton of ice and snow, you cause those resources to melt, which then raises sea levels everywhere else on the planet. But also, when you have massive amounts of melting ice, you get darker surfaces underneath, which absorb more heat from the sun, and then they melt even more and things just kind of run away from there. And of course, when you lose all the ice and snow, you end up with less of an ice cube in your soda, and everyone knows that's just not okay. But anyways, these huge changes in the Arctic aren't only raising sea levels and changing the climate around the world, they're also creating brand new opportunities for humans to start taking advantage of the Arctic region like never before. I mean, you probably know that oil companies are going nuts right now over the potential of drilling for oil in the Arctic Circle, now that the ice is starting to melt, and that's obviously a huge deal because oil is great and everyone loves oil. But what's also great about having access to the Arctic is that it gives us access to some insanely rare minerals that could change all of our lives forever. In fact, there's a race happening right now between a bunch of different countries to try and be the first one to find and mine these minerals, and they call these minerals rare earth elements. And yes, I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, okay, rare earth elements, that sounds kind of boring, and maybe a little bit too sciencey, but trust me, when I say that these rare earth elements are going to be a huge part of all of our futures. Rare earth elements are a group of 17 different minerals that we use in tons of different technologies like smartphones and electric cars and wind turbines and solar panels, all kinds of stuff that we're going to need a lot of as we move forward. And here's the best part. It turns out that the Arctic region, especially the seabed, has some of the largest known deposits of these rare earth minerals on planet Earth. So if you want to be at the forefront of the green energy revolution, then you're going to want to control the rare earth elements in the Arctic. Unfortunately, though, it's not quite that easy. See, most of these minerals aren't found on land. They're found deep under the ocean floor. So to get to them, you have to build machines that can withstand insane amounts of pressure and heat and miles upon miles of crushing water. Like, I'm talking about thousands of feet deep where sunlight can't even reach. And to do that sort of thing, you're going to need technology that's just barely possible today. Now, this is where things get really interesting because a lot of the biggest players in the game here are the countries that have the tech to do this. For example, we've got Lockheed Martin, which is a major player in the US defense industry. Then we've got Deep Green, which is a company backed by Jeff Bezos. And then we've got a whole bunch of other players in the game, including Japan, China, South Korea, and some others. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, why do defense contractors care about rare earth elements? Aren't those only used for like green energy stuff? And that's where things get really complicated. Rare earth minerals are used to make magnets, which can then be used in things like missiles and drones and all kinds of other military applications. So when you're talking about companies like Lockheed Martin, it makes sense that they would want access to these resources. It's actually a big enough deal that the US government is giving $47 million to Lockheed Martin to try and help them develop the technology to mine these minerals. The main way that they're planning to do this is through something called a seafloor mining collector, which is basically like a giant vacuum cleaner that sucks up the ocean floor and then separates out all the valuable minerals. And while that sounds like something that could be really bad for the environment, the reality is that we're already destroying the environment in the Arctic by trying to drill for oil and doing all kinds of other stuff. And the people who are doing the environmental impact studies are saying that the damage done by seafloor mining is likely to be minimal compared to a lot of other types of mining. So in theory, we should be able to suck up all of those rare earth minerals without doing too much damage to the environment. But here's the problem. The Arctic region is home to a bunch of incredibly rare animals and plants that we've never seen before, and almost nothing is known about them. So even if the experts say that it's probably going to be okay to start mining on the ocean floor, that's based on their experience with other ecosystems. There's no guarantee that it will actually be fine. For example, we've got this really cute little fish called the Arctic cod that lives in the Arctic Ocean, and it's only found in the Arctic Ocean. And scientists think that it plays a major role in the ecosystem by being food for bigger animals. And even though they're super tiny, they're incredibly abundant in the Arctic waters, so there's a lot of them. But nobody knows exactly how seafloor mining will impact them, or any of the other wildlife in the area. Of course, this isn't the only reason that people are hesitant to start mining in the Arctic. It's also incredibly dangerous to do, and it's also incredibly expensive and time-consuming to set up. But despite all of that, it looks like we're going to see some pretty big developments in the Arctic over the next few years. And it's not just going to be limited to mining either. There are tons of other things that are happening in the Arctic that could change the world. For example, one of the really big deals recently was that NASA announced that they're launching the first ever mission to study the interior of the Earth from space. To be clear, this isn't going to be a manned mission. It's not like they're going to send a bunch of astronauts to the Arctic and have them bounce around on the ground and do science experiments. Instead, they're going to launch a spacecraft called the Arctic Submarine Terahertz Observatory, or ASTRO for short, and it's going to fly through the Arctic Circle and measure radio waves that come from inside the Earth. Why do they want to do this? Well, the truth is that we know surprisingly little about what's going on inside the Earth. Most of what we know comes from looking at rocks that have been dug up or from studying seismic waves that travel through the Earth. But what we really need is a way to look at the entire Earth all at once, and that's what ASTRO is going to do. So with this mission, we're going to be able to get a three-dimensional map of what's inside the Earth, and then we're going to be able to compare that to the map that we have of what's on top of the Earth, and that's going to tell us a lot about volcanoes and earthquakes and all kinds of other stuff. But aside from that, NASA has also launched a bunch of other missions to study the Arctic in recent months, like Operation Icebridge, which uses planes and helicopters and all kinds of vehicles to study the ice in the Arctic. And then there's also the Whole Earth Catalog, which is a multi-year project to collect tons of data about every part of the Earth, including the Arctic. So as you can see, there's a lot going on in the Arctic right now, and it's pretty clear that the US government at least thinks that it's really important to start paying attention to this region. But the question is, why do you care? Why does any of this matter to you? Well, it matters to you because all of this research and exploration is going to lead to more opportunities to make money in the Arctic. I mean, we've already started seeing this happen with all the oil companies moving into the region. But it's also going to open up opportunities in shipping and transportation and all kinds of other industries. Plus, it's just a matter of time before we discover something truly amazing in the Arctic that changes the world. Maybe it'll be a new mineral or a new species of animal or even something else entirely. And the best part is that it's not too late to get involved. If you're interested in learning more about the Arctic and the opportunities that are available there, then I highly recommend that you check out a website. I mean, you probably know that I'm not going to plug a random website here, but it's a website that's dedicated to helping people learn about the Arctic and the opportunities that are available there. And it's a great resource for anyone who wants to stay up to date on all the latest developments in the Arctic. So, go check that out right now, and thanks for watching.